Hey Donny, you still dar man. You had your wee F-rib for 5 seasons now. Can you give an update on your thoughts please, and has anything changed over the past few years?
Hi Brian. Yes, I'm a bit older, but none the wiser. And due to lockdown blues, I've put on 10 pounds in weight.
I had noticed you were a bit out of shape but thought it was because of too much Guinness and not lockdown blues Donny. However, I was asking about your boat and not your body.
I see you've not changed any anyway, Brian. However, yes, my opinion on the boat and 6 horsepower outboard has not changed. I still love it to bits, but I have adjusted a few things on it since the last video.
Cool beans. Can you spill them to show us all what you have done?
Okay, Brian, it will be my pleasure, but just don't loose your lip on me in front of everyone else. Anywho, you will remember the transom dolly I made. I didn't use it much as it tipped over on rough ground as the wheels were too close together, so I made a small launching trailer instead. I wanted it to be compact and light, so it could be transported on the car roof rack beside the top box. I will still mostly carry the boat on my shoulders as it's not too heavy, but the trolley should prove useful on long low tide launches. It's basically a long galvanised tube used as an axle with some wooden blocks attached to it. A length cut from a wooden broom handle then forms a short drawbar, and there are several ropes. The wooden blocks are fixed together with stainless steel bolts and wing nuts, so they can fold into position and be tightened with my fingers. The drawbar then screws into the axle assembly using the brass joiners off an old chimney sweep's broom. I'm not sure the younger generation would remember them though, so we need to use another method to attach the drawbar to the axle assembly. The trolley wheels then slip on the ends of the axle and are held in place with R-clips.
Wow! You are not as stupid as you look.
This is a close-up view of the trolley and shows how the wooden blocks assembly work. So you can see it's very simple to make, and the axle is long enough so that it won't tip over easily.
Perhaps if you had longer feet, you would not tip over so easily after a gallon of Guinness Donny.
Watch it, Brian, or you will get my short foot in your big mouth.
Or, play nice Donny.
Once assembled, I push the trolley under the blown up boat from the rear as shown. And once under the boat, the wooden trolley blocks fit in the guppy's grooves as shown. The 2 blue ropes in the drawbar are then tied off on either side of the guppy. This prevents the drawbar swinging about under the boat as I pull it. I then pull the trolley with the boat secured to it by the long white rope which is secured to the axle.
Simple but effective, just like yourself. Any other improvements?
Yep, the Coleman Lilo air pump I used to use eventually wore out, so I now have a lovely Sievler air pump. I no longer need to use a foot pump to get up to pressure. It has a gauge and cuts off when at 250 millibars. It cost around 50 quid and is definitely the dog's danglers for blowing up boats.
Good purchase. That will save you going red in the face pumping it manually. Anything else worth talking about?
You may recall I had a cheap Lowrance fish finder as a depth gauge. I had the transducer mounted in hull enclosed in a box of baby oil. This fish finder developed an intermittent fault which I suspected was a dry joint in the unit's circuit board, so I had to replace it all. This time I bought a cheap Humminbird fish finder, and as I had to replace the transducer as well, decided to have a different design of the in-hull box. This one is made from a piece of rectangular plastic ducting, fiberglass to the hull. The top is permanently open. The transducer is mounted as a small wooden block which fits inside the homemade hull housing. It's then secured in place by tightening the wing nut. I simply fill the housing with water as I set up the boat on the beach.
Smart stuff Donny. Does it work?
Like a wet dream, Brian, and the water stays in the housing, even in a decent chop. I tried it fixed to a transom in the conventional manner and broke the transducer mount the second time I landed. That's why I prefer it built into the boat.
Yes, I have watched how clumsy you are pulling the boat over rocky shores. How is the hull lasting?
It's lasting better than my body, Brian. The Keel Easy tape I applied when new is great stuff, but after 4 years of constant use began to wear a bit thin. During a particularly dull day of lockdown blues, I decided to pass some time reinforcing the keel by removing the tape and applying a fiberglass strip. It's eyes upon glass from Halfords, and I have a few stainless steel washers embedded in it at the worst wear points. It should hopefully last a few years now as well. Fortunately, the PVC tubes have stood the test of time well. There are no deep scores on them yet, and certainly no punctures.
Not a pretty picture. But I know you use the boat on rocky shores almost every day. Next topic, please.
Okay. When I initially set up the outboard, I wanted the anti-cavitation plate as near level with the bottom of the hull as possible. The photo is at an angle, but it is only half an inch below the hull, which is very acceptable to me. To get at that height, I had to use a half-inch wooden spacer to lift the outboard, but I didn't want to fix a spacer to the transom. I prefer fixing it to outboard clamps with cable ties. A neat solution that means I never forget the spacers. I fixed a ref counter to the outboard hood, as it not only indicates engine revs, but also total running hours. The counter's wire, which has to be wrapped around the spark plug sleeve, runs inside the hood and is joined with spade connections to allow the hood to be removed.
Okay. So you are not wired to the moon. Next.
I tried various plastic storage boxes for the bow box, but they kept splitting, so made my own custom box from ply, Brian. I keep a sharp knife with a rounded point in the handy-to-get into pouch at the front of the box, just in case I need it in a hurry. Inside are kept the spare prop, the VHF radio, baler and sponge, fish finder battery and the foot pump. I also keep the camera gear dry in here when underway. The box is held in place in the boat by slotting it into fixtures on the floorboards, then using a thin rope to secure the front, which is wrapped round a cleat inside the box.
You are good at thinking outside the box.
Yep, it's all about keeping things simple and making life easy, Brian. The transducer's wires are ran and the fish finder is connected to the battery inside the box. Then the fish finder is slid into its mount on the box lid.
That is an ugly piece of plastic on the front, Donny.
Ugly but very functional, Brian. It was a piece of my old Seago slat floor inflatable boat, glued to raise the bow height. Before I fixed it, waves could wash under the front of the bow cover, but not now as they are deflected away, and the bow is always as dry as a bone even in the biggest chop. In my opinion, a bow cover is a must on such a small boat. This one is homemade and it only takes seconds to fit. The canvas material was the old bag that my Seago slat floor was kept in, and a flexible plastic pole fitted into the boat's rope fittings keeps the cover shape as the cover is clipped onto the boat's rubbing strake. A couple of tensioning stays then ensures it will never come off.
Tight as a duck's ass, Donny.
Yep, I enjoy making functional things from recycled materials, Brian. Once the seat is slid into position, it is also held from sliding about by a couple of stays. I have Tupperware boxes on the ends of the seat to hold my tools and also my phone and car keys. Although I like to keep the back of the boat clear, I also fit a small recycle box the council gave me. I find it's very handy for holding bits and bobs like dead fish or even keeping my lunch dry. Again, it's just clipped to the rubbing strake to keep things simple. If I'm expecting a very choppy or wet journey ahead, I often storm rig the back of the boat by stretching a custom cut tarpaulin over the back area. This helps prevent spray and rain filling the rear deck, and also stops anything in the back bouncing overboard. Firm foam blocks stitched into the tarpaulin make it easy to fix under the grab rope and hold it firmly in position, while other straps fix it to the rubbing strake and also the transom. The rear tarpaulin and the front bow cover greatly reduces the top areas where water can get into the boat, as water will bog the boat down, and if too much gets in, it will not plane.
Makes sense, Donny. What if you bounce out the boat though?
Good question, Brian, and I have that covered too. I'm not supple enough to flip over backwards to get back into the boat, or even lift my foot high enough to stand in the cavitation plate, so I have a homemade ladder always within easy reach within the boat, and it clips onto the grab rope. It works a treat for me. It's a short piece of galvanised tube in the bottom rung so it sinks. I often try self-rescue techniques on how to get back into the boat, as I didn't want to find out it was impossible when a real emergency arose. One last thing, I always carry a personal location beacon on my person and not in the boat. It will call for assistance if I'm in real difficulty.
Thanks, Donny, and it's why you are still Darman. I just hope you are still alive in 4 years' time to give another update video.